Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 124 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue motivational podcast in the world for League of Legends. Plan of attack, Curtis, over the next couple of weeks. We're going to plan some things out.
Let's lay it all out.
Today is going to be a normal episode. We're going to have some,
boring. Sorry, I just ruined it.
Exciting, Curtis.
Okay,
Not
exciting.
boring. We're going to cover some, our normal solo queue topics, some of our learnings over the that we've gathered over the week that we love sharing with our audience.
Yep.
And then next week, you and I we're going to do a reflection on our entire season.
Yep.
So over this next week, Curtis, you're going to jot down some notes, some things, and we're going to come prepared.
We'll do that.
And we're going to share that. And we also want to hear people write in to Nathan's Mailbag, brokenbyconceptshow@gmail.com. It's in the YouTube description below. We want to hear your guys' reflections. You can just send us an email, just one, this is the rank that I went from. It could be even pretty bad, and you can be like, oh, I went backwards.
Could be
maybe,
backwards, yeah.
Maybe a couple of 5 points, 6 points, and we'll accumulate these, we'll share some. So I think
Gather around the fireplace, tell
around
your
the fireplace,
story
tell
of
the
the year,
stories.
what happened.
So yeah, maybe we'll ask it format. Tell us, what rank you started or what rank you ended last season, what rank you are now, and just a couple of things you noticed, good or bad.
Key learnings, key takeaways. I want to even ask, I'm actually fascinated because I'm looking through League Achievements channel on my Discord, right? I've got clients in here. For example, Side, this season he went from Gold 4 to D4. Tell us how the hell you did that.
Yep.
Right? Because I coach people on usually most people every 3 weeks over the entirety of a season. There's a lot there and I can't keep track of everyone. So share us. What did we cover? Walk us through all these people that have been getting insane results. Share with me. Share with us.
Especially if you're a long-time listener of this podcast. Let's say you've been listening for the last year or something like that. Things that you like that worked or didn't like. Because, we always encourage that you got to have your own process at the end of the day. We obviously talk about what we do and what works for us.
Yep.
Even you and I differ a bit in terms of the way we approach things. What worked, what didn't work, and you'll learn it. And again, we'll share our ones as well. Just a little preview. In season 10, 2020, I finished Master 0 LP. Last season, I went backwards. I finished Diamond 1, 75 LP. And this year, I'll be top 20, top 30 challenger. So that's already a bit of a preview. There's, a lot there.
There's a lot there to unpack. And then the week after that, that's when we're going to do the preseason.
Our initial reaction to the preseason.
How to utilize
the preseason, which is very important. So that's the plan of attack, guys.
Now, while we're on this topic, Nathan, I wanted to also shout out one specific client quickly before you go into your thing, Boke. Now, Boke is also an Aussie. He
where's he from in Australia? Do you know?
Can't remember. Maybe Brisbane. I can't remember. But basically with Boke, he joined as a silver. He was silver 3, silver 4. Can't remember. He made gold 4 last night. And the day after he's going overseas, he had to do it that day.
So he had a time pressure.
That was the last.
Usually people crack under time pressure.
They usually crack under it. It was the last day that he could play solo queue, and he made gold 4.
Unbelievable.
And I'm going to say this straight up because I actually broke my rule of not coaching. I usually only coach gold 4 and above with him because he was from OST and he used to come to the OST coaching sessions because the OST coaching sessions are kind of quiet.
Yep.
It's like, oh, he's an Aussie. I'm going to just do something patriotic and I'm going to help out a fellow Aussie here. And I'm going to be honest, it was harder to get Boke from silver to gold than it was to get a client from diamond to master by far. That just goes to show silver to gold is, maybe it's just my skill set. I'm not that familiar with that.
That's definitely an element. You haven't spent much time.
So much that could be going wrong in that silver to gold. I thought it was always going to be basic. I was like, because gold to plat's relatively easy. It's pretty solved. You can tie that back to fundamentals. But in silver, there is all this other stuff that I don't understand. And the message that he sent me after, because I said, I'm so proud of you. You put in the work, you got the result. And then he left me this message. He said, thanks for all your help, particularly your patience. I acknowledge it just have felt like I just wasn't really hearing you at times. I'm surprised how long it took me to sort myself out. I know it was mostly mental the whole time, which I don't really believe that because we got into a lot about reducing deaths. He playing like taking high percentage plays, that sort of thing. And he actually did send clips into the VOD's question channel, and I'd like give him advice how to think as your champion. He originally played Vigar, and then we really got him good at Vigar, and then he wasn't feeling it, wasn't having fun. Then we like taught him Vex, and then he learned Vex, and then we taught him the Vex mindset, and he ended up getting gold with Vex. But anyway, he said, it was only the last few days that he actually stopped kidding himself and just took control of his mental state before, during, and after games. I still can't believe I went 13-3 to get promoted on the last night I could play before the end of the season. But it is what it is. I'm so happy and relieved. Thank you again. And Tim was also doing reviews with him. He said, thanks, shout out Tim, give him a raise or something. So maybe that's Tim. We got to have a discussion here, some negotiation. Yeah, so he actually dropped to Silver 2. He dropped from Silver 1 to Silver 2. Then he went 13-3 over, I think, a few days to get to Gold 4.
Love it. I love the backwards and then polish up some things and then bam, clicks.
So shout out to Boke. That's a very, very amazing effort. And we need to hear from you. Let's get specific. For anyone that has got, and there's actually a few other people who've gone from Silver to Gold, I would love to hear from those people specifically. What was going wrong? Why were you in Silver? Okay, so yeah.
Actually, something just popped up in my mind. I don't know if we watched House of Dragon, the first season.
Yep.
And if none of you guys have watched, I mean, this still will apply. There's a character called Daemon Targaryen, and I saw a comment which was because I always relate things to League of Legends. Someone said this is one of the most real characters because he in the show, it's not like he's some beast soldier warrior. He loses some fights at the beginning. Like he's not painted as some like super talented natural guy, and then he wins some fights as well. And then he's like, brave. I view that as sort of like a solo queue journey. It's like, this is a real character because this is what it really is in solo queue. Even for you and I, it's not just sunshine and rainbows. You're just flying all up the ranks. You lose some fights, you win some fights. That's how it is in real life. You look at UFC fighters, you could look at, some of the greatest legends of all time. They have terrible seasons. Faker's had some terrible seasons.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting, thinking about characters on TV are not written usually as people that wins and loses. It's like, I'm just this incredible warrior. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's life, isn't it? Just a bunch of battles, individual battles. Some you lose, some you win, and then you just got to keep on going and taking lessons from them. It's funny you say that because I feel like one thing I really want to push more over this next year is us as players. And because sometimes I feel like coaching holistically in the league community, it's very easy for a person to watch our content or watch a coach's content and feel very detached from the coach. Like they're special. They're a coach. They have all this knowledge. They can exit, like they can do, they feel like we're different in a way. Like just because we're a coach or have coach in front of our name or whatever. But in reality, we are also players and we have our own journeys. And I feel like it would help our ability. It would be better for us and the client if they could resonate with us more and we feel their pain and they feel our pain. And I feel like you can develop a way better relationship with your clients that way. And I think, and one way I'm actually going to do this is spoiler for one of my next video. So we're releasing a Yone guide, and because Tim is a Yone player. So Tim's actually doing it and I'm his student. And it's going to be learning Yone over 6 weeks. And I'm going to be his student and I'm going to go through this program executing about what he says and then do a video at the end to show what do I do. So this is what my Yone looked like at the start, and then let's see what it is at the end and see, okay, what my journey looked like, what didn't work with this guide, what did I not resonate with, what did I resonate with? And I feel like that's a really interesting approach and something I want to experiment with more. How can I be more involved in the learning process and resonate more with clients?
The way I interpret that is being more real, more reality.
Yeah.
What's real? Because definitely it can view you know what we say in coaches, you're like automatically on this higher ground, but you know, it's like bringing it back. This is the real. It's messy. It's dirty, dude. I always view I've talked about it before on one of the podcasts last year. I view my journey as like a plane crash. It's just an absolute catastrophe. You know, it's sloppy. I actually saw a comment as well. Oh, I wish I screenshotted it. I do remember it. Someone was like recommending gameplay to watch, like Korean Charles and stuff like that. And, you know, someone's like, oh, you know, why don't you watch, Curtis or Nathan's game? They're challenger. And then this guy was like, oh, like I've actually watched their games and like they make too many basics mistakes for a challenger. I'm like, dude, this is the reality, dude. Like, you know, you can go and watch those VOD channels, but most of the time, those channels as well are highlighting just the very fancy games, the easy games where it's like, oh, I clear camps, I get a double kill. But, you know, these guys, people are making basic mistakes all the time.
Watch Arel King. Arel King, what I love about Arel King's content, you'll watch him and he's like, he'll die early. He'll die to a gank. He's 0-1 or he goes down a bit of CS and then he comes back. That's what I love about Arel King's content is very real.
Real, yes.
It's not him being a 10-0 Aurelia one-shotting an entire team. It's I'm 1-1 or I'm 1-2.
Or 0-3.
Or 0-3 and I come back and I win this game. And that's very real. And he makes mistakes. You could say that about anyone. And that's actually a really good point. People think that because you're a challenger, the mistakes you make are going to be, you're just not going to make mistakes, or like you're just not going to die, or like, what does that mean?
I think they think that we should be making advanced mistakes, like a crazy mechanical
like
outplay.
A dive, or like you're dying on dives, or I don't know.
Like, you know, you could like watch some of my gameplay and like, you know, I'll have situations where I'm going for a dive, I auto attack the tower. I'm volleying and I Q auto attack the tower. I look like literally a bronze player.
But
that's just you.
No. I remember this is distinct. This is a real thing that happened.
Maybe that is just me. Charles is laughing.
So I got some people send me people reacting to my content. Like they say like X famous person reacting to my content, right? And someone asked Hadriel, I remember on a stream, what are your thoughts on Coach Curtis, right? And so and then they went to my TF guide, which I was actually really proud of. It's like really important guide, and like I got really in depth. I was like
some of your best work.
Some of my best, yeah. I was really, because I mastered TF at that stage, and in the guide, there's like this one time where I'm like talking, and I go for a bot roam. And I like misclick the blast cone and I like don't go over the wall, but I just left it in the guide because it's like, it is what it is. It gets across the point. Like here I was like roaming, I had move, and then in the importance of hovering or whatever it might be. And then he like saw that and then just clicked off the VOD. He's like, is it like in a really, and it was like everyone laughing and haha, yeah, Coast is trash. But how interesting is that? It's like, there's all this value and all this beautiful learning. And then you show one mechanical misplay and then it's like, they just write you off. It's like, it's not worth it. He's not worth my time and energy, which is so interesting because that is very telling of the mentality of a lot of these people. It's like they're not trying to juice value and get the learning. They're just trying to put you down or something. I don't know what the mentality is like.
I think
behind that.
If you make a basic mistake,
so you're not worthy. You're
a bad
flawless. But I put that in there. I could have easily edited that out, right? But I chose because I'm a player. It's not like I'm a robot that makes zero mechanical misplays. Like it's just interesting that I got wrote off because of that. I just found that very interesting. But that's why I don't collaborate with any of these people. I don't reach out to any of these people because that's how they're viewing me in this weird lens where it's like, yeah, these people make basic mistakes, so they're not worthy of my time, which is so weird to me. I don't get it.
I think again, it's disconnected from reality, and it's just people's disrespect for the game. They think that. Again, we always say this, the consistency, the basic things done well equals
results.
Yep. Consistency over long thousands of games.
Consistency in decision making, consistency in your laning phases, consistency in every aspect. Consistency is what leads to LP.
Speaking of consistency now, revisiting the 30-30-40 rule, Curtis.
I should do a video on that recently.
Your original video that has something like 200,000-300,000 views or something like that. What was it called?
I actually can't remember. 30-40 rule, coin flip. Solo queue coin flip.
Oh, the coin flip video. Something like that. Is solo queue a full coin flip or something like that?
Yep.
We have some new data, Curtis, that has come in, okay?
Data.
And remember we came up with it. It was a conversation that we had over the dinner table, 2 years ago or whatever.
I remember that distinctly, yeah.
Because we were trying to break down, and we said, what's the win rate of someone getting to rank 1? What would that look like?
Because I asked you that question, and then you said something ridiculous, and I'm like, that is not right.
What did I say?
You said something.
I think it was like 40,
20 or something, and I was like, there's no way that's right.
And then
like we just got into like this discussion, and then we like kind of cracked the code.
So what we came up with was 30% of the games are in your control.
No.
30% of the games are free wins. Yep. 30% of the games are out of your control, auto losses, and then 40% of games are in your control. Yep. And then if you combine the 40% plus 30% equals a 70% win rate, is our theory to get to rank 1 over 200 games.
Over minimum 200 games.
Minimum 200 games. Owner on NA, so he's the jungler for T1 who is in the World Championship final. By the time you guys watch this, the final will be done. He literally, Curtis, we've got some stats here.
Okay,
so
here we go.
He is rank 2 currently, 1700 LP, 131 wins and 56 losses, almost 200 games, with exactly dead on 70% win rate.
Wow.
So here we go, Curtis. So what we'll show you, this is what his OPGG looks like.
Wow.
Put it on the screen.
Perfect.
And that is, look at that, perfect sample size. And he's going to be getting rank 1. Yeah. So, this is just... we've obviously made a video, we've talked about in this podcast before, that people weaponize this to throw off auto losses. But the sort of the way that I want you guys to approach this is like, this is obviously one of the best players in the world. We're not saying that, this is going to, but this is what's possible, guys. Like raise your standards a bit. And if you're a diamond player, you're sitting there blaming your teammates, look at Owner here. He's on the North American ladder here. He's played 200 games and he's going to be rank 1 with a 70% win rate.
It's actually, so this is an interesting thought experiment, right? Because
he's lost 30% of his games as one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's actually a lot. When you think of like in the grand scheme of things, the best player in the world losing 30% of games. But as a thought experiment, there are people that are on both sides of the fence here. There are people on one side, they hate that argument. They hate the idea. It's like, oh, but they're a pro player. But that. And they don't like they don't get anything from comparing themselves to like a pro player. Then there's people on the other side, which is, wow, it just shows what's possible. And if they can do that, then there must be so many flaws in my gameplay.
That's right.
Right? So I've heard both. I've heard it from both sides. What are your thoughts on this? What when you hear that, when people in the Soul 2 probably on both sides of the fence, like why should I compare myself to them? But on the flip side, the positives. Like what comes to mind when people say that?
Well, yeah, what comes to mind is you shouldn't be, comparing yourself to a person whose full-time job and has insane, talent, obviously, as well as hard work. But yeah, as you said before, Curtis, it's just the mindset. It's like, okay, the best player in the world is winning 30% of the games. You're not the best player in the world. So if you're losing 49% of your games, you're still, it's still okay. It's still going to be normal. And it's hard for people to grasp, especially when you come from single-player games, because people always think that the 30% is you're wasting your time, and that's when because you obviously, in general, humans, we more focus on the negative events rather than the positive events. So yeah, I mean, that's my perspective. And the other thing as well is that this is very telling as well, is that, people champion stop all the time because they think it's the champion problem. You gotta get, some games are really bad. Sometimes the auto losses could be your champion is literally just unplayable in this game. But you need to not let that affect saying that this is the champion's weak because you're focusing too much on those games.
This also, by the way, just that data there, or whatever, that completely and utterly destroys the idea that teammates and matchmaking is broken.
That's right. Or it's like
the best league solo queue is a meritocracy if you play enough. And because there are thousands of games being played, it is a meritocracy. The best player at solo queue will get rank 1.
Think about it. This was not multiple attempts. He literally just lands here, boom. One attempt, 70% win rate, rank 1. That's it. That's pure. And that's the great thing about that, guys. The way we should view it is League of Legends is about your skill and your decision making.
It is about your skill. It's not like, if it really wasn't, then those players wouldn't get ranked.
It would be, especially like maybe it would take multiple tries, And Owner's done this multiple times, hasn't he? Wasn't he on EU? He got rank 1?
What was it? Was the other?
No, Canyon was rank 1.
It was a Canyon, like Showmaker and Canyon and stuff. They all got like top, rank 1 or whatever. No, it was a Nuggery. Yeah, they just
get off the flight and then that's it.
Yeah,
doesn't take multiple attempts, guys.
Yeah, in a very small amount of games. So that proves that the system works. whether you like it or not, whether it had no matter how tough the pill is to swallow at the end of the day.
There's so many things missing that you could be missing.
Yeah.
This gets my next point. I did a review today. I asked him, okay, what is this trundle pathing going to do? And he said, oh, okay, most likely this trundle's going to do blue, gromp, red into a gank. That was his mindset going into it, right?
Blue, gromp, red
for
gank.
level 3
Okay.
and then gank, right? But I said, okay, he could do that, but the other option is, because people don't really like to skip their wolves when they do the 3 quadrant. You know, they do, you know, blue, gromp, wolves, and then maybe red, or they'll do camp, or the skip the skip the red and maybe gank, something like that. So he does his normal thing. He goes bot. They do get a triple kill, like it works, but what he did, he actually created a blind spot by tunneling in on that's what Trundle's going to do, because Trundle actually didn't do the red when he was bot. He just did blue gromp wolves, went straight bot, skipped his red, and then he goes to counter jungle him. He does the Krug. He's playing Rek'Sai, so he can't actually see the red. He walks past the red to the Raptors.
Just automatically assume that I assume that he did the red.
And he said he even reviewed the game and he didn't even catch that, even though that information
Did he pan his camera bot and see the Trundle?
He was there. He killed the Trundle.
Oh, he killed the Trundle.
He saw the Trundle didn't have red or anything like that. That's
oh my God.
That's how ingrained.
Wow.
If you have a narrative in League of Legends,
wow,
it's like blind spots in a car or something, isn't it?
That's so interesting.
Isn't that interesting? And that's why it's so important to get other people to review games, because and this is going back to the 70% win rate thing, is that, you know, guys, you're missing so much in your gameplay that you might have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, and I told him the best decision you're going to make, dude, just take his red. It's way better than taking his Krugs, resetting them, and his Raptors resetting them. And it was so funny to see.
Like, what? His red's up?
He literally walked past it. And then I said, where's he going to go out of base? You know, he thought it was going top, but then he just goes to the red. And then just ganks one and kills bot, and his mind would have just exploded.
Yeah.
But he even did that in the game, and he didn't even think again. He thought that the red was gone. And he would have been like, oh, that's weird. Isn't that crazy? Complete blind spot.
Wow.
And that's just how powerful the mind is, guys.
Yeah.
And how much it will trick you.
Yeah, I've done many reviews like that with clients, and I'm like, I'm doing the review with them. I'm like, this is stuff that you know.
Yeah.
This is stuff that we've gone over before in the past. Yet they're like, oh yeah, it's actually really obvious when you say it.
So obvious.
And then it's not until like I spot it out. And it can be things like, the one thing that people overlook in mid specifically is their wave states. So they and their ability usage. So I'll give you a really funny example. This is straight up. This is what happened. I think this was yesterday. Reviewed an Akali VOD. And he was like, he said at the start, you know, I like my question, why do you think you're stuck here? Why do you think you're losing games? And he's like, I really don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know. I know I have kind of like a weakness in my mid game, team fighting, skirmishing, but I can't really identify what it is, right? We go into the team fights and skirmishes with the Akali. He was literally using his W for no reason, with no one around him. So it was pure muscle memory, and he couldn't see that he was doing
Complete blind spot.
So what was happening, right? So because he had played so much Akali, his default response is that when he goes in, he has to use Shroud. And he got it. It was like a free kill, right? Someone just got picked, and he just like eat him, Q auto, finish him off. And then he just used Shroud. Just used it. And then, because he had no Shroud, the rest of the people come, and then he just dies because he had no Shroud. And this happened like 3 major team fights and skirmishes. He died all of them because he literally wasted Shroud. And he couldn't see it. He couldn't see it himself. And then I remember when we were going to review, it's like, oh wow, like this is massive. Like I didn't know this. I
had no idea.
Had no idea.
And it's interesting. He could probably look at other Akali's VODs and he'll be able to see that.
What is this guy doing with his Shroud?
Yeah, but he wouldn't be able to see it himself. I see it all the time.
Yeah, 100%. I said this before. I said this actually during, I believe, my interview with Necklace. Pearl, who is a platinum Cassio player, highlighted a huge weakness in my Cassio as a platinum Cassio. She's like, why are you not like letting the wave, like playing off the bounce and then like just like slow building, playing off the bounce and getting a reset, playing for a tempo reset? Like it's so obvious. And because I was like, I'm like sitting in lane with no mana and I can't get a reset. And I'm just accepting my reality. Like, this is Cassio, but it's not. Like, I could have easily just conserved my mana and then like stacked the wave off the bounce and heavy trade into a tempo reset. But and then when she said that, I told her this before. I told her this as well. I'm like, you changed my entire view on Cassio just with one comment. But I would easily spot that in someone else's Cassio gameplay, but I couldn't spot it in my own.
And that's someone you've been a Challenger Casio player for years.
Yeah, played Casio for years. But that was Casio was like one of my best champs in season 5, season 6.
It's fascinating stuff playing spots, guys.
Yeah. It just shows the power of narratives. You're right. The power of and your attention, where your attention is focused in a review. And and that's also why, by the way, and you know what we love this, Nathan. You remember when we used to review scrims, right? And back in the day when we were in Direwolves, and then what would happen is that everyone would have their idea of what happened in the game before they even get to the review.
Yep.
And so it got to the point where we would say no one says anything until you reviewed the game.
Until the gameplay's in front of your face.
Yes, until the gameplay's in front of you. And then we have the conversation. So our rule in Direwolves was everyone would do their own review first for 5 minutes. Then we have the discussion. Because what we found was that people would just go straight away after the game without looking at it. Why'd you do that on that wave? Why would you fight that? And then have no context. And you know what the scary thing is about that? That's all they were thinking about that entire game. Yep. That one fuck up on that top side at 5 minutes, and they couldn't let go of it. You got to learn to let go of mistakes as they come, because you're not able to be objective about that mistake. You don't have the full picture until after. So your baseline assumption needs to be, I actually don't have the full picture. I need to take a look at that later. It could be my fault, could be their fault. I have no idea. Even no matter how convinced you think you are, there's always another a variable you see in that moment. And a lot of the time, this is why I love to look at the VOD from the enemy's perspective. So for example, if you die to a gank, right? If a mid laner dies to a gank, I always say, before you label it as something, say to yourself, if I was the Zac in this situation, why would the Zac gank here? And a lot of the time, it's actually very simple.
Very simple, makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense. You have no flash, your jungler just showed bot side, whatever the hell it might be. And like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know? And people are quick to rush to blame their jungler or whatever the hell it might be, or that champ's OP or whatever the hell it might be.
Insert narrative.
And that's how narratives are formed. They're actually, narratives are genuinely formed from unaddressed situations or incorrectly labeled situations because you're not seeing the reality.
Yep.
Over a long period of time.
I'll tell you another, I think that's a really good one. Another huge blind spot people have, especially Diamond Platinum players. I guess maybe it's more a fundamental understanding, but showing on the map, I mean, especially this is more of like a jungler, but also support. I also see this a lot in my games as well, even with the support players.
Like, and the 80 carry dies or something.
Well, they're sitting in lane instead of just like
being out of vision
for a bit.
Cupcakes taught me that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Set out of vision.
And that's a huge blind spot because you're not really seeing, you think, they obviously know I'm bot, but you can trick them even for a couple of seconds, don't make it that easy for the enemy. And that's, again, you brought that into my attention.
Pressure is really hard to measure.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Threat and pressure, it's not tangible.
No, it's not, because it's invisible.
It's invisible,
you don't, because you're not in the enemy's shoes, seeing how they feel in that game based on the vision.
You don't know how they're feeling. Yeah, you actually don't know how you can't measure that feeling of the pressure that you're exerting on someone. It's very not tangible. You can feel it, but you can't measure it.
No, it's not like the fancy scoreline or high CS numbers
or something.
Or high CS numbers or damage done in the game or something like that.
Yeah, it's not. Impact.
And these are things that are so easy to overlook, and that's the difference. I would say one of the big differences between a diamond player and like a challenge. They understand the threat, not showing the map.
Cupcake
little things.
Cupcake mastered.
Yeah, when I'm playing against Cupcake, dude, every play that I make, I'm like, I don't really know if he's going to be like there. Like I'm pressured, and even if he shows a little bit bot, it's like, but he might have, like, that 3 seconds that he disappeared. I might have made a different decision in that moment. Yeah. So those tiny things completely add up.
He really understands the mental game of pressure and like threat, and he understands the culmination or the building of small wins and how that leads to massive advantages. He's mastered the small wins mentality, and he is a high impact player. Like, you feel his presence on the map. There are players that, like, until you play with them, like, you can't explain it. They just feel high impact. Like Biopanther is another one. Biopanther is a high impact player. Like, there is just high impact players.
He's just always strong.
They're always strong. Yeah, they're hard to kill.
Yeah,
they're hard to kill. They're at the major fights. They're exerting pressure whenever they can. They're maximizing threat. Like, they're just very good at that stuff. But it's all small intangible things that make them good. But you can teach them. they're individual skills and concepts that can be broken down. But it's and it ties back to that other concept, like 1 + 1 = 3. Like those little things add up are greater than the sum of the parts.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
like if you only do one of them, but not the other ones, it's like, you know, it doesn't really work.
And I think that's where, that's where coaching and stuff comes. If you're really
Yeah.
stuck, a platinum diamond player, these things are really big to sort of point out in your gameplay. And, that's different. Like, owner would be doing things that you would not be seeing. That's why it's not the fancy scores. It's not the thing. It's the pressure. You're viewing it from the enemy team's perspective. Obviously, mechanics is an important part, but that goes into being a top player in the game.
By the way, this is like a complete tangent, but I think it's funny to raise, and it ties into one of my points. Is that so? My girlfriend's starting her league journey. She actually just hit level 30, right? And it is one of the funniest things to watch, and it hurts to watch because we talk about the game, right? Every day.
She sees you playing all the time. This is your full-time job.
And
she hears you talking about the game all the time. She knows all the lingo.
Right, and so I've told her, just please play normal games, right? I'm like begging her, like just until you know what every champ in the game does really well, and until you're dominating your opponents, don't go into ranked. You're just wasting your time, right? And she's like starting to get better. She plays AD carry. She's been loving Tristana. She's just only playing Tristana. And I gave her some tips with Tristana. She's watching like some Tristana videos and stuff. And she had this one game where she did quite well. I think she went like 7-3 or something. She's like, "That's it, I'm ready. I'm going into ranked." After like one game of doing
one
well.
good game.
And then she got like destroyed. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, my mid went 2-13."
Oh no.
and I'm like, I don't even get into it. It's just like, it's so funny because it's like, I'm just seeing it's like a new person being born into the league.
Yeah.
Like
instantly everything's just popping up instantly, even though she's around your boyfriend and she knows. And
I'm telling her the importance. I'm like, I'm showing her, and I sat her down in practice hall, like showing how to properly CS, how to layer minions, the importance of slow building waves. Like I'm actually teaching her this stuff like now. And she's starting to get it. She is getting it slowly, but you can tell how she's trying to rush. It's that lack of respect for the craft of League of Legends. It really is. Like, and I think she's slowly learning that the game is incredibly difficult. And I think she's had a reality check. Like, holy shit, this game is really hard.
Because she sees you play it, it looks easy.
She watches me play, yeah.
She's like, I could do that. It's fine. But there's all the visible stuff and the mental stack. And
the mental stack. And
muscle memory.
One thing I'm really trying to push is the appreciation of the execution of the game. Like the doing of the game, and like having a deep respect for the execution of the game. But I'm just keeping an eye on. I'm just observing. I'm not trying to like compete too much. Letting her have fun and doing.
You're not trying to be the strict coach. You're just like,
I'm just give her tips here.
Let her be a toddler and fall over a bunch.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm just keeping an eye on her. And I'm just making sure that no.
You're calling around every time she says my mid lane is in. Like I'm getting griefed.
Nah, she hasn't said that. I just found it funny that she mentioned my mid went 2-13. Yeah. Like I just like. Yeah, but I'm like, how did you go? And she's like, oh, yeah, we didn't do well or something like that.
It might be the better thing to focus on.
And also what was really interesting, what I did, so I watched one of her games in her laning phases, right? And she, like, okay, it was like the stock standard mistake of trading in a big minion wave. So she like tried to like take this trade inside this big minion wave, and then she got chunked. She had to like disengage, and then the enemy stacked 3 waves into it, and then they got dove. And I said, "Oh, this is really bad. You're missing all this farm." And then she's like, "Oh, it's fine. Like like she says as if it's fine." And it's so interesting because that shows like there is a complete. For a lot of beginners, they don't understand the significance of farm, gold and farm. And I'm really trying to push it in really early, the importance of just farm. And you're missing all of this. And this is what this means. And items and farm. And like, I think a lot of people just haven't got taught that. And it's just so goddamn important. And I want to make sure that she's like learned it ASAP. But
especially someone like Tristana, the plates, like, dude, you could chomp towers and get so much gold.
Yeah. Just be a farming machine. And so yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on it. I think it's an interesting journey to seeing someone really learn from scratch. So we'll kind of keep sharing that story. I think it's quite funny.
I'd be interested to see a year from now.
Yeah. What would happen? Because I've never seen anyone from actual scratch learn the game. ties into my other point. So, last week we mentioned the whole normal game thing. Someone raised a really interesting point. So there was one or two people, or actually a handful of people really got excited about this idea of normal games, right? And there was a discussion that followed on in the BBC channel in my Discord. And one of the things we did overlook was the idea of the less you play ranked, the more you could instill ranked anxiety.
Of course, yeah. Because then ranked becomes a big event.
Yes, ranked becomes the big event.
I always say it's like let's say you're doing your first public speaking, you're going to be so anxious for that. Your first public speaking event versus if you're 50 events in, number 47 doesn't really mean that much to you.
Exactly. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's like, well, okay, there is there is less pressure in a normal game because you can just genuinely focus on improvement because there is no losing of the LP. At the same time, the ranked is becoming more and more
putting
and more
it on
important.
a pedestal.
Yes. So really, we got to keep an eye on that. And I don't really know how to kind of tie those in together.
It is a bit difficult, isn't it?
And it also gets me thinking. I thinking and just listening to what people's experiences were with normal games. I really do think it's probably only till goal 4.
Yeah.
I really do.
That was the question I posed. I said, what's the baseline?
My hunch is that it's goal 4.
Well, I think I think the biggest point that you brought up is, you've got to learn how to kill people because, if we've talked about some of the gold platinum clients that we get and sometimes they just don't have that instinct. You just got to learn to kill people, even if you fuck up and just lose the game from it. It's so importantly because you can't really climb higher if you're not killing people.
It's like so I think it might be even as simple as this. If you're scared of dying or scared of making mistakes and you don't have that killer instinct, you probably need to develop this in normal games and then come to ranked and then you kind of have that flow-on effect into ranked. So that's probably what it is. Anything else from that, you probably just learn it in ranked, I think. So it's just, I just want to keep tabs on that idea, that concept of normal games. I think it's still a lot to explore, but that was one of the dangers we overlooked. So I just wanted to kind of raise that.
The other thing we overlooked as well was mentioned on about the Faker story, saying that there must be something to learn.
There is something there.
In normals, because if Faker can be rank 1 normals, that's what he was before he became a pro player in Season 2, Season 3, and then he instantly goes to rank and gets rank 1 on Korean server. He only went to ranked because his matchmaking his queue times were too long. So that's another funny story. So he was just like, screw this, I'm just going to play ranked because my queue times in normals were too long because he couldn't get matched with. He was the highest ranked, his MMR, his hidden MMR was too high in normals.
Yeah, so there's something there, that's for sure. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think we can jump into Mailbag now.
Mailbag?
Away we go. Jingle song. Alrighty then. First question here is from Raymond. The title of this email is Defts, Philosophy and High Performance Players. So Deft is in the World Championship. Incredible career. It's again, let's go back to the beginning of the episode. I love, Deft has had some really rough seasons. He's gone backwards and now he's back. He's had a 10-year career? 9-year career?
Yeah, all I remember is him in season 4. Yeah, sorry.
That's the whole Deft versus Imp rivalry with the two
SKT won in
Samsung.
season
3,
and then
they were out of it season 4, and that's when,
because that was Samsung White and Blue.
Yeah.
And then there was Imp and Deft.
And that's where the whole llama thing came out, and the it was crying,
it was
emotional. The alpaca, sorry, that's the one. So another great story of consistency over long. He's back at the World Championship. No one ever said DRX would. If you said they were going to be in the World Championship, people would laugh at you. I don't think one person said that all year, right? So unbelievable story. Really excited for the final. So this was, he wrote in based on this. Dear Nathan and Curtis, first off, thanks to you both for producing a fantastic podcast. Since listening to you guys, my process has improved so much, and though I've only been able to play sparingly this season, you've helped me reach for the first time in my ranked goal of Diamond 4 in less than 200 games.
Wow.
I'll need to join Soul 2 next season when I have more time to play.
Great.
Got a new potential client. Excited to potentially join the community, Raymond, of process-focused players. To the matter at hand, I heard a quote from Deft in a recent interview. which I thought fitted the BBC mantra so well from a player at the very highest level, obviously in the World Championship final. I had said, this is the quote, I'd said in every previous year, in every interview, that my goal is to achieve a level of performance that can truly contest a world's trophy. I used to say that like a broken record. The one thing I realized after playing quarterfinals is that winning worlds was just a byproduct. In the end, the things I had actually loved were in the journey towards that byproduct, that I loved the process in itself. If I win worlds, I'm happy only because that process towards winning worlds has become longer. For now, I just love the journey of it. This life of a professional gamer, to face all of the competitive teams, to win, to lose, the process itself, that encompasses all those things. That's where what I actually loved.
Beautiful.
I'd love to hear your takes on his revelation and why this kind of ethos isn't more prevalent at the highest level, not only amongst pros who seem more often to be fueled by an intense competitiveness and all-consuming desire to be the best, but also at the top of in solo queue. Most prominent high elo streamers aren't process-oriented people, and they generally have a horrific relationship with the game through which they spread false narratives like losers queue and justify toxic behaviors. This seems to be in contrast with elite athletes in other sports who prize discipline and consistency above all else. How can such good players own such bad habits? See, I love that quote from Death.
Amazing.
The biggest thing that I love that word is winning was just a byproduct of your process. And it's such a powerful mindset to have that. Like, if I just increase my level of skill, focus on my process to get that level of skill, the whatever the skill level is, whatever the result is, whatever the result. It's actually out of my control in a way. All I can focus on is my process. That's such a powerful mindset versus thinking about win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. Your rank is purely a byproduct of your process.
It really is. And it's hard to internalize.
Very difficult.
Because it's long-term thinking. It's the definition of long-term thinking. The here and now, this one game, this one win, this block is short-term, right? And that's what occupies the here and now. So it's the easiest thing to latch onto. To think past that one block and to think about this week or this month or this season, it's not easy to do. And I think really to answer it in a really concise way, it's just maturity. I really do. I think when you think of elite athletes, I don't think they all started to be process oriented. I mean, some maybe did, depending on how they were coached, but I believe a lot of them become more process oriented because they realized the way they got results wasn't sustainable. And
they can't just rely on their natural talent anymore. It's about they've got to evolve with their own body, especially.
Yeah, they got to evolve with their own body. I think Tom Brady talks a lot about that. Like what he did and how he won at the start wasn't really going to be sustainable. And then he had to realize, okay, my body's getting beaten up. I got to figure out a process here to actually survive those hits and keep on being able to compete at the highest level for year in, year out.
He's said in an interview, he thinks that the end part of his career is playing better than he was when he was in his mid-20s.
Because you refine that process. You find out how your body works and how your mind works, what motivates you.
How the season feels, when you need to ramp up, when you need to take it easy, the recovery time, all this stuff, as you said, it's maturity, experience, and being process-orientated.
I think there is you can't, in a way, I don't think you can bypass that. Like I kind of feel like you need to try it in your unsustainable way and realize how unsustainable it is and be like, okay, I think that was the natural thing for us. Like think about you and I, we both got high elo back in the day just by playing thousands of games and just loving the game and whatever. And trying that out, you tried that, it didn't work.
And that might be because we were getting older, we had different narratives and stuff,
People
but we had to evolve and change our process.
That's the only reason we actually did come up with the quote-unquote process, because what we did before wasn't working for us as players. We couldn't get Challenger anymore doing what we did before. So it was like, okay, well, if we want to get Challenger, then let's figure it out. We actually got to review and we've got to look at our mistakes and all this stuff, and then it just follows on from there, right? And then I think even now, looking back, and this is what I think next week we'll be able to go in more depth on is, are there trends in our seasons? Do you feel like is there highs and lows, motivation? How do we manage motivation and all this stuff? Like this is stuff we're slowly learning. And the more you play, the more you get mastery over this sort of thing and you learn about yourself. I think that's what makes this is what differentiates, in my opinion, like the greats. It's like how consistent they are over a long period of time. Like you think about like the best in every sport. Like you think of tennis, like Roger Federer. Rafael Nadal, you think of like the Tom Brady's, and you think about like the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, and in league, Faker, right? Faker, who's been playing, for 10 years, whatever it might be. He won Worlds in season 3.
Yep.
And now he's in Worlds again in season 12. That is unbelievable for a game that is changing so rapidly, highly competitive. So these are the people that have really mastered the process. They've understood. They've been able to replicate that high performance. But yeah, it's just maturity, I think, perspective. Being able to reflect. And I think a lot of people especially for league, right? We're talking league specifically. There aren't many role models because the sport hasn't been around for long enough, right? Let's say we fast forward 20 years. There's probably a lot more people, quote unquote, like Faker that have been around for a long period of time who've had sustained results that can probably share their stories, and we could get into the whole, what is it like to compete for that long? Because no one's really competed that long in league. You think about it.
A lot of especially the original, let's say, the more NA and EU people with the 6 years, 7 years, all those players are just gone,
and stuff.
Completely gone.
Pretty much all of them are gone, right?
Not even in the scene in coaching positions, a lot of them.
A lot of them are literally
Dyrus and Odwan and stuff.
Reginald.
All gone.
All these players who played and did well back in the day. Think about Taipei Assassins, like they're basically, all those players have gone. I mean, they're coaches. Some of them are coaches, I think.
People who won Worlds like Crown, Dade.
And what was his name? The support, remember the support with Imp? What was his name? Marta.
I think he's on coaching staff.
He's a coach? Right. Coach. So like they're the players though that like they're the ones like you just got to fast forward 10, 20 years. If we have that knowledge, then that's going to have an effect on the up and coming generation. But right now, those shoes are filled by people that don't have a role model and they're just trying to figure it out. They're in that learning and maturity phase. Really.
So yeah, great interview. That's really insightful. It's awesome to hear, other players with similar mindset to the BBC. And he just talked many times, he quote, I just love the process. It's the process is most important. Everything else is just a byproduct.
I hope Faker writes a book.
Absolutely.
Or a movie or an in-depth documentary. Like when he finishes his career, like an in-depth look at his mentality.
I would love to know the seasons where he just didn't make Worlds, and those are the really interesting times.
Yeah, I want to learn more about like how does he deal with like, obviously there was in his generation, he was the best, right? Like Faker, when you think of Faker as season 3 and then season 5 and those season 6, right? Before Showmaker Chovy, he was the mid laner. Then Showmaker, Chovy come in, right? And then everyone's hyping up Showmaker and Chovy. What was his mentality like? Well, how is he wrestling with that? How is he wrestling with being the
new
best?
up-and-coming kids.
The up-and-coming kids that are now dominating.
Yeah. And now he's overtaking them again.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
You don't see that in league. Like,
no.
It's so rare.
He's the only one that's done it,
Who's
essentially.
done that? How can you, like, that's really, really hard to do. Really hard.
Deft has kind of done it, right?
Deft as well, yeah. Because with Gumi, yeah. Oh, think about it. He overtook Viper, yeah. Well, Guma, he's going to be versing Guma in the final, which will be interesting because Guma is like kind of like the newer generation of AD carry. It's fascinating.
All right, next question here is from Shy. Title of this email is "I did it!" in caps ! I did it! I did it! The process worked like a charm! ! Hello, dear coaches. I'm here to tell you about my recent achievement. I got to Diamond and even Master for the first time in 9 years.
Wow.
I'm not in any of your programs, but I watch your guys' content and consume the podcast for quite a while now, about 2 years. Ever since I started implementing the three block process and reviewing my matches and setting well-referenced learning objectives, I jumped to a whole new level of play. I'm a support player and I main Zara, so I couldn't implement a lot of your guys' specific pointers, but I could implement the more holistic approach and manage to climb not only to Diamond, previous year's record being Platinum 2, but to Master. I play my own version of the champion, and it's incredible how great it was to slowly but surely get better at the game as a whole and at Zara in particular. I wanted to thank you and the viewers who leave comments. I read them all, from the jokes You know who does lots of jokes in the comments? Felipe. He's a practical joker,
He's
isn't
a practical joker.
He's always like the top. He's probably got so many top comments on the BBC YouTube show.
No, I reckon because he tries to. He's like perfected it. He knows how to get likes.
He does. From the jokes to the personal stories to insights and questions, it's always great to see such a nice community congregate after so many years of seeing the game as fundamentally toxic. In my history of League, I started playing in Season 2 and ranked in Season 3. It took me many, many months to get out of Bronze, and it took me 12 promotion series to get out of Silver 2, and I ended Season 3 in Gold 5 at the time I was also made in Zara. Since Season 4 onwards, I was always stuck around Platinum 4, never sticking to a small champ pool and spamming games with no process at all. In late Season 10, I started watching you guys' content and I was maining Team Mode top because I just wanted to have fun on the Rift and Team Mode is pure fun. For that entire season and the next, I stuck to Team Mode top and reached a new height, Platinum 2. I learned a lot and I enjoyed myself and it was a great little journey. In Season 12, I started playing in blocks and reviewing this year and went back to playing support with my old main Zara. Slowly, incrementally, I climbed. I was stuck in Platinum 1 for a while, but then I reached Diamond, and from there, I stuck to an even more strict process. I was sure that this will be my peak for the season. I was happy with that, since I never attained that rank in all these years, but somehow, by keeping at it, I got to Diamond 3, then Diamond 2, was stuck there for about a month, then Diamond 1, with only 2 promotion series. I got to Master in only 3 months after getting Diamond for the first time. It was all thanks to the process and taking full responsibility for every single moment in the game. I still make plenty of mistakes and I'm not always 100% focused. It's really hard to maintain focus all the time, but I try and the results speak for themselves. I hope other players find this inspirational and that even if you are not mid or top, that these holistic practices will still motivate you to try and better yourselves as LoL players and life in general. Cannot thank you all enough and I hope to get even better and thus higher and tell another great part of my journey next year.
Wow.
I wanted to bring this up because I love that sort of journey of like he thought that was as high as it was going to go, but then it just was like, oh wow, this isn't that hard. Once you like have this process and you start understanding the game holistically and reviewing your games, things click actually pretty quickly. I've noticed this. That's what for Ishan. I had my interview with him on my YouTube channel. He went from Gold 4 to Platinum 1. He was stuck in bouncing between Platinum 1 to Platinum 3 for months, and then got to Diamond 4, Diamond 3, Diamond 2, Diamond 1 really quick. And that's just because he was building that foundation, then it started to click. I've seen this happen quite a bit.
I think that's one aspect. I do think the other aspect of it, though, is that once you prove to yourself that you can improve and that you are able to overcome a plateau point once, I feel like it just switches your entire mentality. So like what I've at least noticed for a lot of other clients is that let's say, for example, they're hardcore stuck at goal 1, right?
Yep.
And let's say they were at gold 1 for months and then they break that plateau point via a process and they stick to it and they get to Platinum 4. Once they've done that once, a lot of the time they are able now to continue to climb because they've proven to themselves that they're genuinely capable of doing it. All it takes is once. All it takes is one single time of doing it. So
it's like this mental block that you just break through. It's like
because before you genuinely think you're stuck, well, that is your identity, and once you break it once, it's very easy to constantly just change your identity. Now it doesn't even become your identity. I'm just a player. I'm not a gold player. I'm not a platinum player. I'm just a player. This is me, and then you just ride through the ranks. I improve, and then it's just you're not getting stuck anywhere. It's just a growth mindset. Once you internalize that growth mindset, it's very, very powerful. Power of belief. It's simply the power of believing you can do something. That's really what it is.
It's like when we first started playing League, we had no skills, never played a MOBA, but because we were, high-level gamers in other games, the belief just carried us through it.
That is like, what natural talent is, I think, for in gaming, what it looks like. In traditional sport, right? Talent it's athletic talent, right? It's like, I know that I'm strong and tall, or I can do this, that, and the other. Therefore, I can apply myself to any sport, or I can perform well in anything I put my mind to physically.
And they're process oriented early on because of the way those sports are developed and the coaches early on.
In gaming, talent is kind of like the belief in your ability to perform well and improve and just beat people because of your experiences in the past. So for you, it was being really good at WoW, and for me, it was being really good at Counter-Strike. So it was like, I'm just a gamer, I'm good at games, so League's just another game, and
I'll figure this out.
I'm familiar with this, and it's just going to be quite easy for me to overcome. Yeah. And Kenny Werner has that beautiful quote in Effortless Mastery saying how as soon as you label something as difficult or hard, it is oftentimes a lot more difficult to learn it, right? And how he recommends you frame things that are quote unquote difficult, they're either familiar or unfamiliar. You're either familiar with something or you're unfamiliar with something.
Those words are so powerful, how it changes. Like you could look at a hard task and you just change the word into unfamiliar. I haven't put in the hours. That's what it was. I
haven't seen this before.
That's what League of Legends was to us. We're curious. It's unfamiliar to us. It was just
unfamiliar, but we believed.
Didn't mean it was going to be hard.
Yeah, we never thought League was hard.
No.
We just kind of like believed that we could do it because we had played other games to a high level, and that was hard.
We just had to get a gist of it, understand what it feels like, what efficiency, how to do damage.
I never, just thinking back about it, because I remember at school, when we were at school together, I remember distinctly in the hallway thinking, I was talking to Ben, our other friend who played Lee, I was saying, I was 15, I'm like 1550 ELO, right? It was the ELO. I was saying, I'm 1550. And I never once said I was stuck.
No. It was just because we thought we just didn't put the effort in that much. Yeah, just didn't
put the effort in. I never said I was stuck. I was like, yeah, that's my rank. But I thought that
because that wasn't your game at the time. That was just like a side game.
Yeah, it was like I wasn't taking it massively seriously. Yeah. But like, it's interesting how we never thought like that. And even for you, like when you play, you were low. It's like you just it's not really. I don't care about. I play WoW, or whatever. That was your main game, right?
And Guild Wars
at the time. But it wasn't. And so yeah, you're. It's interesting, right? Like our view. We never thought we were stuck.
Never crossed mind.
Very interesting.
All right, next question here is from Caleb. Titled his email is What to Expect. Hello, BBCers. My name is Caleb, and I've recently discovered the podcast through your YouTube channels. Honestly, it is a breath of fresh air to find you guys after the crowd narrative that my favorite game sucks and we only keep playing because we are all addicted. I've been playing League of Legends since Season 4, almost 9 years now. In this time, I've been a gold jungle main for the past 5 seasons with little signs of improvement. Having recently discovered your coaching and the podcast, I instantly put myself on the waiting list for Soul 2. But wanting to prepare, I have been watching a lot of Nathan's videos. Having listened to the podcast for 3 weeks now on Spotify, on my drive to work, I've been struggling to go back through all the episodes to find the original discussion of what is now commonly referred to as the process, where you guys talk about 3 blocks, replay reviews, and anything else in relation to playing for improvement rather than playing for rank. Could you either go over the whole concept of the process or point out which episode you guys first discussed this? I want to thank you guys again for the breath of fresh air. I never agree with the narrative that I'm in a rank because of other people and totally think that I'm a gold at skill level and haven't improved. And it almost seems like there's a little bit of hope at the end of the tunnel here that there is a new system I can try and make improvements with.
I think just watch the ultimate ranked guide.
Yeah, I think just the 2 of them. I'll probably say watch the first one. I think we really break down what the 3 block process is in the ultimate rank guide in season 11.
11, sorry.
11 and then 12. Season 12.
Yeah, so watch them both. The ultimate season 11 guide and the ultimate season 12 guide. Both of those, I'm sure we go over it there in some way, shape or form.
Yeah. Especially this last year, I think we really break it down. Yep. And I just want to mention here as well, a huge part of the process for League, for me specifically, it's about not sabotaging more. That's what I learned a lot from. Like, it just gives you structure so you don't go off track. There's obviously other benefits to it, but that's like the key one, especially for like an old school player. What do you think about that, Curtis?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I had this thought in my mind that I need to write down.
A huge part of the process is not sabotaging.
Yeah. Well, climbing is equal parts genuinely improving at the game and preventing self-sabotage.
Going backwards, yeah.
Yeah. Because there are many, many things that are going to...
You can get distracted by.
You get distracted by, whether it's champ pools, whether it's tilt queue, whether it's metas, whether it's people's perception of you, expectations you place on yourself, your relationship with the game. The list goes on and on and on and on.
All right. Next question here is from Toucan Man or Harry. Tyler's end was trouble with focus and anxiety in solo queue. Hello, Nathan and Curtis. My name is Harry. I've been a long-time viewer of the podcast and an avid Your First Jungle Clear enjoyer. That's my series on my YouTube channel where we go over the early game because the early game is quite important for the jungle position. I'm currently a Gold 2 Talon and Shaco jungle main. I've never really tried hard or had a process for ranked, but I've learned just enough to get gold pretty easily and be able to carry my friends in normals whenever we play. I've finally decided to try and improve at a ranked since a lot of my friends quit playing League and I don't really have much to do anymore. But since we're just going into the preseason, I've also decided to pick up Kane as my third champ to round out my pool and to brush up on my fundamentals since I don't have the mechanics on him to carry me like I do on Talon and Shaco. So it's been easier to see where I'm going wrong. The main issue I've been having with solo queue is that I find it really hard to focus and I become really bored without anyone to talk to while playing. Not even about the game, just in general. And I also listen to music while I play to keep me from becoming bored. But I think both of those things make me play worse because it takes focus away from the game, but I still find it hard to play more than 1 to 2 games without them. I don't have ADHD, and I'm usually a pretty patient person. I also find that when I do play without those, then as soon as I make a mistake, I progressively become more bored and make worse decisions. I also have a bit of an anxiety now since if I make a mistake, I feel like I'm wasting the time of my teammates and losing the game. I also feel embarrassed and kind of shut down mentally when that happens. And are there any tips you guys have to improve focus, intensity, and a way to have fun while losing, as well as a way to mitigate the deal with this ranked anxiety? Thanks for the podcast. It's greatly improved my mindset towards everything in my life, and I'm very grateful for you guys.
I'm really conflicted about how to answer this question because I've had this question many times. And so there's I'm going to give you 2 lines of thought.
So the question is, I get bored.
Yeah, essentially about boredom, right? I've got two ways to answer this question, all right? I need your help, Nathan, to see which one makes the most sense, or which one's the most appropriate, okay?
Yep.
Number 1, I can't solve a boredom problem. You either want to improve at the game or you don't. If you don't naturally feel motivated to get better at the game and take your gaming or your league journey seriously, if you don't have that, then that's okay. Maybe you're not ready for coaching. Maybe you're not ready to improve at the game.
Maybe his way of experiencing the game is just through the normals with his friends and carrying them.
And owning your identity that the way you have fun is normal games, flex queue, ARAMs, playing, 12 champs at the same time. Whatever the hell it is.
You know the narrative is there, I think, Curtis, is that because they're carrying normals, they sort of want to be like, what's my potential in ranked? They want to be like, all their friends are saying, dude, you should get ranked.
They're not really playing ranked to genuinely get better and climb. It's more so just to...
It's like an ego thing, maybe a little bit.
Or something. I don't know. Yeah.
It's like, let's see if I can shit on some people in ranked. And then if he makes a mistake, it's like, oh, I'm not doing that. So it's boring.
So I always say with those people, that it's like, you need to come to me when you're ready. Like when you're ready to take the journey seriously and actually when you're ready to develop mastery and you're really wanting to climb and genuinely get better, then the BBC and the MLA and the Soul 2, then we're here for you. Otherwise, I recommend that you don't force it. I recommend that you have fun doing, playing League like it's Fortnite. There's nothing wrong with that. There are many, many people who do that. Owning what gives you the most satisfaction. And this actually a lot ties into this. I've actually stopped using the word fun as much. I think fun is actually the starting point. You must have fun at the start. Then I think what supersedes fun is satisfaction and contentment. When you play League and you play the game with Rek'Sai, yes, there's an element of fun. It's there. But I would say what keeps you going is fun is not the thing that fundamentally keeps you going. Contentment and satisfaction is what keeps you going.
It's like the mastery that the craft.
The pursuit of mastery and the craftsmanship.
That's super fun.
That's satisfying.
And it's awesome to see. Maybe even I've sort of screwed up a couple of games. I have a game, I get 15 kills. I just play goddamn beautifully. And just like, dude, this is cool. This is awesome.
It's cool, but it wouldn't fun. It doesn't seem like it's the right word. It's an element of fun there. It is there. But it's, again, I feel like it's more satisfaction and contentment, and you feel full. Like I feel like this is.
I just love playing the game, dude.
love of the game as well.
It's like, playing basketball.
But no one's
or something
forcing
like that.
you to do that. You genuinely want to do that. You were going to play it no matter what. No one forced you to want to do the process. It's like, I want to do the process. I'm self-motivated because I see the benefits, right? So there's that whole train of thought. So for him, come back, don't force it, do it when you're ready.
Yep.
The other train of thought is, okay, to see whether or not, to see what, to test if like your problem is really that you're not having fun or you'll get bored or not, is to actually brute force it with discipline and say, okay, even if you're kind of a little bit miserable playing in the short term, try the 3 blocks, try the very small champ pool, and do it as a test for like 2 to 3 weeks. Like brute force it. Using lull states, doing the whole, no music, 3 blocks, doing the whole thing for 2 or 3 weeks. Now,
when you start making a mistake, start thinking about what's the next objective?
What's the next
thing I can
next?
do? Discipline, force
yes,
it.
Force it, right? Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not fun or not pleasant, okay? Then at the end of those 2-3 weeks, then you'll have a little bit more of an insight into what League really is about. And then you'll be able to make the appropriate decision whether you're ready for that journey or not. Now, I'm conflicted because a part of me feels like I don't really want to force people to go down that route. But at the same time, it could work. So
I mean, he's emailing his questions, so maybe he sort of wants to go, but this boredom thing.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm really conflicted because, yes, it's never something I've ever experienced. Like, I either want to play the game and I want to get better at it or I don't.
Yeah, I love playing League of Legends. I love improving, dude. It's
and so
super
what
fun.
I recommend, my default response is really just kind of come back when you're ready, you know? Like, I think really that's the most natural thing for me.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one. Yeah, I think that it's like if I think about in school, I was bored of subjects because I just didn't enjoy them. I just didn't love them. Like boredom, boredom hasn't really come. You've mentioned before boredom with you playing League when you play on second accounts because you feel like you're not challenged.
I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. Yeah, I don't feel challenged enough. I don't feel like...
Yeah, like normal games would be boring for me.
Very boring.
Yeah.
Normal games, Smurf games are all very boring for me. Because, again, fun or contentment and satisfaction comes from the Goldilocks zone where you're perfectly challenged and it's not too hard, but it's not too easy. I even said this recently where I had a string of games where I was versing just lower quality opponents and I actually wasn't having that much fun. Like I had a string of games where I'm like, just the quality of the opponents that I'm versing, it doesn't feel like I'm getting challenged. I'm not taking that much away from these games, but there's like a handful of players that I love versing because I get challenged and I learn a lot, right? So I know that for me personally, I get the most fun when I'm versing like these handful of players. But anyway, I think ultimately he needs to do some reflection and see what does he want to get out of the game. Ultimately, everyone wants something different from the game. What do you want your League journey to look like?
We have an episode, it would have been in the before the hundreds, maybe in the 50s or something like that, about why you play League. I think just type in Broken by Concept, why play League. I'm sure it'll pop up. I don't know the exact episode. Try that as well because, again, maybe you just need to embrace your identity that you just love playing normal games. That's how you enjoy the game.
There's actually someone in the MLA who embraced their identity, say, okay, I know that I'm not obsessed about like having the perfect, most efficient way of climbing, but what genuinely gives me fun is having a large champion pool. So he does it. He has a large champion pool.
He's not expecting he's going to get insane results.
Yeah, he's not expecting because that's not what he wants out of it. He wants to have a large champion pool. He likes the whole counter picking thing. That's what he likes, having just playing a wide variety of champs that he loves. And even though, again, he's going to get less results, he doesn't give a shit. That's what he wants. I'm like, great. At least you're honest with yourself. So that's something there as well.
All right. That's it for today's episode. That's it for Mailbag. We'll see you guys in our reflection episode. Remember, going back to the beginning of the episode, send us in a Mailbag, your reflection of the season, couple of dot points. We'll talk about it on next episode. We'll see you next time.